Okay, first thing we're gonna do is look at the cover. I really love this cover, just like I loved all the covers so far. We see Sonic in a grassy plain, and Eggman's shadow is looming overhead, and Sonic looks pretty shocked by this, so this really does a good job of indicating that Eggman is back. It does what it needs to. You can see the motion effects on the cover showing that he is shocked. So, there isn't much to say about the cover. I'm gonna move on. There's not a lot going on, but it gets the job done. Then we have one of the most helpful comic pages ever. It actually sums up what happened the previous arc, which I really recommend more comic books to do this because it causes less confusion. Yeah, it also gives people less of a reason to go and get those comics, but it really helps catch people up with what's happening. They also do something called the roll call. Which is showing off all the characters and giving you a basic description of all of them. Sonic, the blue blur, fastest thing alive. SBO, the ninja spy. And then the rest of the people that I can't be bothered to read about because it really doesn't matter. We then get this really cool opening page of Sonic and SBO running on this weird spiral strip like you would see in Sonic the Hedgehog 2. It's really cool to see these occurring out in nature. I never could tell if these were created naturally or if they were artificial, so this shows that some of them are natural. Either that or these were created by the Phantom Ruby at one point, because you can also see distortion effects on them. So who's to say what happened here? These badniks are actually from Knuckles Chaotix and Sonic CD. The flying robot is from Knuckles Chaotix, and the little ant is from Sonic CD. So that's cool that they're bringing them up. We then see that Sonic is asking SBO about what's been going on. Sonic smashes through the badniks and we see a bunch of flickies come out. It's cool that they had flickies here. I would like to see some other animals besides flickies, but I guess flickies are alright. Sonic is catching up with SBO still. We then see that SBO explains to Sonic that for the past bit, they've been trying to find Eggman. They've gone to all of his old labs. They even found Cubot and Orbot, and Cubot and Orbot has no clue where Eggman's at. So Eggman is just missing. We can even see E106, which is the robot that chases Amy around in Sonic Adventure. And we get to see Vector fucking around with that snake from Sonic Forces. And Charmy riding on a Motobug, which is really cute. I would love to see him actually own a Motobug. We then see that they're taking a skylift. There's not a lot to say there. Then Sonic goes into a village to meet up with the Chaotix, and Charmy takes out, shockingly enough, Eggman. Now, Sonic doesn't believe that Eggman doesn't know who he is. Eggman's acting totally innocent, totally nice, and Sonic is instantly suspicious of this. Eggman is explaining to Sonic that he has no idea what he's talking about because he asks, do you remember the Lost Hex, the Ark, the Death Egg? And it's just a little back and forth joke. I think it's pretty funny how he has a smart response to everything. For the Ark, for Lost Hex, he says, somebody lost a spell. The Ark has... yeah, it's just really funny. I don't want to spoil all the jokes. But yeah, that's genuinely charming. Sonic then is remembering all the times he's had with Eggman, and you can see that this does definitely take place in the same continuity as the video games, because we can see the Space Colony Arc blowing up the moon, which happened in SA2. We can see the Time Eater from Sonic Generations, and finally we see the laser blowing up the Earth in Sonic Unleashed. So this does take place in the same continuity. It's then revealed that that wagon Eggman was talking about fixing when we first seen him, he had fixed it. He also fixed the little girl's teddy bear, and he's just been helping around the town fixing things. He's even calling himself Mr. Fixer or Mr. Fix-It, either way. The elder of the town reveals that they found Eggman passed out, and for a while they interrogated him because they didn't know if he was genuinely confused on who he was. But because he doesn't know who he is, and he's been doing nothing but helping people, they welcomed him in, and they treat him like he's part of their society. So that's really accepting of them. Personally, I don't think Eggman should get this treatment, because regardless if he knows who he is or not, he is still a mass murderer. In Sonic Forces, he had Infinite actually kill people, so I really don't think that he deserves this kind treatment. We then see in the next panel, he's been working on a pocket watch, and he even built a windmill for the town. And Charmy Bee gives him a little hat with flowers on it, which I love how Eggman is drawn in this comic. For a more sensitive, more caring Eggman, this is definitely the art style I would want him to be in. This shows how kind he can be. Sonic is really confused by all this, and Vector is actually believing Eggman, so fuck you, Vector. I don't know why Vector wouldn't think that this is a trap, seeing what Eggman has done to everyone before. But we see that when Sonic runs to check up on Eggman and them, Eggman is actually building a barrier to try to protect the townspeople. He has 2 tables and he's trying to nail them together, which I would actually say you shouldn't do that. They're actually better as 2 separate tables than as one barrier being nailed together, but whatever. Eggman is calming down the children, and he's asking Sonic if Sonic is going to help, and Sonic assures that yes, he is going to help. We then see, yet again, the Chaotix manhandling these badniks. Just like in the Sonic Forces comics, they are beating the crap out of the badniks. Like Vector, you can see him ripping the head off of one of the ants. You can see Sonic kicking the flying robot and smashing him to pieces. You can see Espio just slicing the robots into bits, and you can see the terrified animals coming out, which you really shouldn't do that. It only takes a punch to knock the animals out. You don't need to throw sharp weapons at them, seeing how you could kill the animal. We then see Charmy Bee take out one spy robot, the same spy robot that's been sneaking around, making Charmy Bee one of the most useful characters ever, sadly. And then we see the person in the chair screaming, "No!" And he's saying, "Why is the Chaotix there? Did my forces stumble upon a settlement?" He doesn't know that Eggman's there. I'm assuming the spy robot has been looking for Eggman. And yet again, I think that that character in that chair is Infinite. It is so obviously Infinite. He even has the same temperaments as Infinite. Sonic then kicks a little ant onto a tree, and the little Ricky pops out. Sonic is happy, but if I was the Ricky, I'd be upset for being kicked into a tree. Charmy Bee then he smashes into Vector's head, which was on purpose just to mess with him. And Charmy Bee proves yet again why he's a nuisance that no one should like. We then see that Sonic shakes hands with Eggman, and everyone's getting along. They're all friends, even though Eggman's a mass murderer. Then Eggman says that Sonic should stop by after he builds Eggman Land, and Sonic is triggered at the thought of Eggman Land, and he's trying to figure out if Eggman's been fooling everyone, or if he's going to do something else called Eggman Land, and it's just a coincidence. But before he can say that, before we can even start to think about this, the person with the most common sense shows up. It is Shadow the Hedgehog and Ruse, and Shadow says that he's going to destroy Eggman first. Thank God, Shadow, that you have some common sense. Eggman killed so many people. He destroyed so many towns. He destroyed cities. Eggman does not need to get away with this, regardless if he knows who he is or not. And then it says, next time, Sonic versus Shadow, which Sonic shouldn't be fighting Shadow, because regardless if Eggman knows who he is or not, he deserves what's coming to him. We then get these little letters, like before we get the best fan art ever. What even is that? We then see terrifying furry cosplay of Tangle. We then see some decent art of Sonic and Shadow. We then see a terrible recreation of issue 3's art. Or is that issue 2? That's issue 2's art. And then finally, oh, that's it. And I obviously don't know how to get this right because something is off center here. I don't know where that is. Oh god. Okay, cover. There we go. I don't know how that happened. It got off center. But yeah, that was issue 5 of Sonic the Hedgehog. What did I think of this issue? It's your standard amnesia issue where a character can't remember who they are, and some people are like, is he still bad? Is he still good? And it was really just to set up the next issue. I feel like we need to get some hints of who that man in the chair is. I'm pretty sure it's Infinite, but we need some development on that plot. This plot of Eggman losing his memory could be good, but I hope it wraps up quickly because I don't want to spend too much time on this. Overall, it's decent like the rest of the comic. This comic isn't really impressing me anymore. It's just alright, which isn't that good for a story to be. A story should seek to impress the people that's reading it, but I guess alright is good enough for the children who are buying this comic. I like this cover. It's not the typical Sonic the Hedgehog style. It kind of reminds me more of Sonic Battle or some of the varying art styles that would happen at Archie. It's a very unique and angular type of art style. I think the one that looks the most odd here is Charmy. I don't know why. He just looks completely different from everybody else. I like that there's a looming Eggman over everyone, and the lightning indicating that there's a struggle. And we see that Shadow has his chaos powers working on his hands, which is weird because this comic will show that chaos abilities are green, when in the games, chaos abilities have been yellow. So that's pretty weird. We see that Shadow has red lightning around him, and Sonic has blue lightning around him, and it's just to convey the speed that they're traveling at. I don't know if this actually happens in the issue, but it's pretty cool for the cover. My one problem with this cover is Espio. Espio has his little ninja thing out, and he never uses that in the whole issue. That's a problem to me. It's a nitpick, but it is something you can actually complain about. So, let's move on to the first page. We see that it said written by Ian Flynn, art by Tracy Yardley. So, thank you guys for making this comic possible. And then we jump straight into the action, which you better get used to that, because that's this whole comic is action, non-stop action. Sonic is telling Shadow to hold on, that it's not what it looks like, and Rouge points out that Eggman was talking about building Eggman Land. And right now, Eggman has no memories, and he thinks that his name is Mr. Tinker, and he's trying to help people. So, this is just a big misunderstanding at the moment. And Sonic says he thought the Eggman Land thing was iffy too, and Shadow just keeps storming ahead, not even listening to Sonic. Kind of reminding me of what happened back in Sonic X, when Shadow had his mind set on defeating Cosmo. He just wasn't listening to anyone's reasoning. He was just beating the crap out of anyone who got in his way. It's kind of reminding me of that. And Sonic tells Shadow that Eggman has lost his memory. They've confirmed that. And Shadow tells him losing one's memory doesn't make them any less dangerous. And Shadow knows because he's speaking from experience, because he has lost his memory multiple times and he has still always been a threat. And that's something that gets brought up multiple times in this comic, that Shadow and Eggman are in very similar positions, or have been in very similar positions throughout the years. We then see that Sonic pushes Shadow aside, and Shadow didn't like that, so he trips Sonic, and then Sonic rushes in front of Eggman, and I'm just going to call him Eggman, even though he's Mr. Tinker. I'm calling him Eggman. I don't like the name Mr. Tinker. But Sonic tells him that Shadow's not listening, and Shadow just doesn't care. And Sonic tells him that he isn't going to touch Eggman, and then Shadow pushes on Sonic's head, pushing him down. Then Sonic grabs Shadow's hand, and you better get used to this commentary, because this is most of the fucking issue, is me just telling you what's happening, because there isn't a lot of dialogue. But Sonic grabs Shadow and slams him against a house, not caring if he destroys people's private property. Eggman says that he should have stayed in bed today. I like you, Mr. Tinker, Eggman. Then the Chaotix confront Rouge because they wanted to confront Shadow and Sonic, but they realize that they're both too powerful and too fast. And I like Rouge's response. Vector says, "You're the one that brought him here. This is your fault." And she says, "Goodness me." I love that. I love that snarky, smart aleck behavior. We then see that Vector was telling her that she had no business bringing Shadow here, and she reminds Vector that they were supposed to be looking for Eggman as well, and they haven't reported in on it, meaning that Rouge and Shadow were to report in on it instead of those guys. And they were wondering how she got the information that they were there, and I assume that Charmy told? I don't know. I don't know what actually goes on here. Vector whispers, "How did they find out?" unless, and then they go, "Ooh," and then Charmy says, "I don't get it," and they're both looking mad at him. So I assume Charmy is the one that gave Rouge the update. We then see that Sonic and Shadow runs into a forest to have one of the most boring of fight scenes. We see that Sonic is running so fast that you see that blue streak pop up behind him, meaning that he's traveling faster than usual. We then see that Sonic is saying that Eggman's been a jerk for a while, but he's done some good stuff too, which I really don't think that's a good argument, but that's how things are solved in this comic. He reminds Shadow that Eggman helped save the world in Sonic Adventure 2 when Shadow was gonna fire a laser at the Earth. Eggman is the one that saved them. And he said, yeah, it was his fault that the world's going to get destroyed, but he did save it in the end, which I think is a terrible argument because he still had the intentions of blowing up the Earth to begin with. Then as they keep on running, Sonic tells him that when Black Doom invaded, Eggman helped fight off Black Doom, which I insist that Eggman fought off Black Doom solely because he wants to take over the world, and Black Doom was going to do it first. Eggman even says that in Shadow the Hedgehog. So, yeah, there's really no defending Eggman on that one. He still wants to take over the world. Sonic then gets tripped and smacks into a tree, but that still just barely hurts him. And then Shadow takes advantage of that and then slams Sonic against the tree again. And he tells Sonic that did he forget that Eggman has made him suffer and has tried to kill him on multiple occasions. And then Sonic points out that Shadow has also tried to kill him on multiple occasions and has also tried to blow up the Earth. And he was saying, if Eggman can't be trusted, then why can you? Why should you be forgiven if Eggman can't? And I don't like that fallacy that he's doing there. I don't like that because Shadow has actually protected the Earth more than Eggman, seeing how Shadow works for the government and helped save the Earth in Sonic 06. Shadow the Hedgehog has completely reformed and hasn't done anything evil in a long time. He helped take down the Jekyll Squad. He helped take back the Earth in Sonic Forces. And not to mention, in Sonic Forces, Eggman successfully takes over the Earth, something Shadow sure the fuck didn't do. So I really think comparing Eggman to Shadow is a terrible thing to do. And it was just done so Shadow would calm down and leave Sonic alone. But of course, this works. So Shadow calms down and agrees to at least humor Sonic, and they're gonna go see what Eggman's idea of Eggman Land is. Sonic is gonna run back there with Shadow, but then Shadow uses Chaos Control to teleport there. But Chaos Control is green, which is weird because in Shadow the Hedgehog, Chaos Control was blue. In Sonic Adventure 2, I think it was yellow, and now here it's green. And because it's supposed to be in the game's continuity, you think they'd keep that consistent, but no, they didn't pick blue. Or I get why they ditched blue, because blue is Sonic's color, but still, they should have went with yellow. Yellow has always been Chaos Control's color. Vector says, I see him on the horizon, pointing out that Shadow is running right at them. I don't get why Shadow just didn't teleport directly into the cottage. I guess Shadow can only teleport short distances now, when before he could just teleport anywhere the hell he wanted to. But I don't know. Maybe that's just a plot hole. Rouge is talking to Shadow, and Eggman is hiding behind his little fort, which is just 2 tables nailed together, which is, he's adorable. He's adorable. Good Eggman is cute, regardless. I don't care. And Shadow flips over the table, and he says, you're gonna show me Eggman Land. And then Eggman starts taking him out to a barn, and he unlocks the lock, and he shows an unfinished version of Eggman Land, which I think all of this works good. I just don't like how that font looks on that banner. The font looks like it was placed there, and it doesn't look like it's natural on the banner. Like, they should have added a wrinkle to the font, a wrinkle to the banner, so it would actually look like it was like that. But other than that, that's pretty cool. I like that they did like a shadowy figure for Eggman with a smile, because it's still hinting that he could be evil. So it's trying to get you guessing if he's good or if he's evil, which I think that's pretty clever. I honestly think that's pretty clever. Rouge says, ooh, threatening. And Charmy thinks it's amazing because he is a child. And Eggman is asking if he's in trouble, and they explain that he's not. And Rouge tells Vector and Espio that they can just have the finder's fee. Her and Shadow don't want it. So the Chaotix are going to take all of the bounty, and Vector thanks her for that. And Espio says, not that we could afford to split it anyways. So apparently they're still having trouble just making rent, or whatever they do with that money. And Eggman points out that all this came about because of a silly name, and Sonic points out that it means something to different people. Because to them, whenever Eggman was talking about taking over the world, he was going to say that he was going to build Eggman Land. So it actually means something very threatening to them. And Eggman said when it opens, he could come and see it. And Sonic asked him, how did he come up with it? And Eggman said it's just a silly name that popped into his head. And he just thought kids would enjoy the name. And Sonic thinks that Eggman is good, but he also doesn't trust him. Like, he trusts him for now, but if Eggman comes back, he's prepared to fight him. And then finally, we see the scene that made me not want to review this comic for months on end. Eggman is the man in the chair. Eggman was the man in the chair. Now, I've already read the next issue, so you probably already did too. It's been out for a month also. I've been slacking on this. I'm not going to tell you who the man in the chair was. When we do the second review, which might happen tonight, it probably will happen tomorrow, we'll see who the man in the chair is. But this twist was so bad that it made me not want to read the comic anymore because it's so predictable. And I thought that the Mr. Tinker Eggman was going to be a Phantom Ruby illusion, but thank God they didn't go with that story. They actually add a unique twist to this, so I'm not going to shit on this ending too much. It's not too terrible of an ending, but you got to watch out. This ending did make me give up on the comic for a solid few weeks. And overall, this comic is what I would describe as a boring comic. The fight scene was alright, but there wasn't much happening in the fight scene. Instead of seeing them fight in a town where you can actually see destruction, or in the forest where some of the forest is getting burnt from Shadow's shoes, or some of the trees are actually cracking and breaking, instead we just get a very mediocre fight where Sonic only gets a couple bruises. We barely get to see any damage done to the environment around them. And even though it looks like that they're fighting at full power, it actually isn't them fighting at full power, because there should be more destruction, more chaos from these two fighting at all. We didn't see Shadow even use one Chaos Spear attack, even though his hands are glowing green on the cover. So I really feel like that this had the potential to be a good fight, but this comic was just wasted with a boring fight, which is why when you see the thumbnail for this comic, you'll see that my character is just sleeping. He's sleeping because this comic was boring. The little bit of exposition we did get in this comic didn't really solve anything, and it just raised more questions, which it does have a little bit of a payoff in the next issue, but it does make this issue stand out as being one of the worst of the run so far. So that's what I have to say about this. Issue 6 is just boring. That's all I gotta say. First thing I want to talk about is this cover. I don't really like this cover, and that's the first time I've said this about the Sonic comic, the IDW Sonic comic. I don't like this cover. If it wasn't for the giant Sonic the Hedgehog at the top, the name Sonic the Hedgehog, I wouldn't know this is a Sonic cover. Yeah, that is a Sonic level being shown, and those are egg pawns, but if I'm just walking by in a comic book store, I really wouldn't notice that this is a Sonic cover, because Sonic is unrecognizable. He's just a blue blur speeding by. And yes, that is a reference. How I would have designed this cover is keep everything the same, the aesthetic is fine. Have Sonic tapping on the window. If Sonic was tapping on the window of the air fleet, it would look really cool, and it matches his character more accurately than him just running by. Barely recognizable. You could do this cover a lot better, and every cover except for this one has been really, really good. So, just disappointed at this one. Just really disappointed. Let me scroll up. We see that this was written by Ian Flynn, and the art was by Adam Bryce Thomas. No relation to me, I assure you. No relation to me at all. And then we see that this starts with Sonic and Tails approaching the Egg Fleet. And this is the exact same one from Sonic Heroes. This is fan fiction to the max, and you can really tell that the writer of this story, Ian Flynn, really loves Heroes. You'll know more about that when we get to the rest of this comic book, especially with the twist. But just know, Heroes references all around. But despite the Heroes references, Tails is flying the standard tornado from Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Not even a modified tornado, just the regular tornado. Maybe that's something to do with the artist and not really the story. We then see that Tails hands Sonic his little radar, and Sonic jumps from the plane and lands onto the carrier while just being totally nonchalant while falling. That totally matches with Sonic. Never afraid to jump out of a plane, but always afraid to fall into the water. Very fitting for him. Sonic jumps straight into the carrier because there's no defenses here, and Eggman notices him for a second, doing a Metal Gear reference with the exclamation mark, then a question mark because it doesn't recognize him. And one thing that I have to praise this comic for is you can tell the movement of every character. You can see Sonic zipping around that pole. You can see when he slams the movement that is in his feet. You can see the whomp on the ground. You can see the shock of his stomp. It's just all really great. I love all of this action artwork. 10 times more entertaining than the last comic we were looking at, where it was just bland and static. We are then confronted by Eggman, who is very confident that Sonic would find him eventually, and then Sonic cuts his speech short by calling him a faker. And Eggman says faker, and then Sonic tells Eggman that he knows where the real Eggman is, and he knows that this guy is a fake, completely ruining his plan. And then Eggman does the best thing ever. He says, "Of course, you'd even ruin my feet, my loathsome copy." And then Eggman turns out to be Neo Metal Sonic. And Sonic says Neo Metal Sonic, but he corrects him instantly. It's Neo Metal Sonic from Sonic Heroes. He is back. He is the man that was in the chair. And that's why the twist is good. When I thought it was just going to be Eggman in the chair and that the other Eggman was a Phantom Ruby replicate, I was really disappointed. But even though this isn't the twist that I wanted with Infinite being the man in the chair, I'm really happy that it was someone like Neo Metal Sonic instead of just Eggman being behind the scenes again. I know, I was not prepared for this either. This is really, really hyped. And he has his exact form from Sonic Heroes, or the Archie comics if you were reading those. He then explains that after Heroes, Eggman took him away and had been repairing him for this occasion, meaning that Sonic Riders is either non-canon or that was a completely different Metal Sonic we saw there, and these could be different Metal Sonics that we've been seeing in the games. But Eggman was repairing him, and Eggman put a loyalty chip inside of him, and Eggman wanted to be sure that the next time he used Metal Sonic wouldn't turn on him again. Which is a big problem to me, because I really think that Metal Sonic has the potential to turn again and betray Eggman again. But Metal Sonic says that he realizes that he needs Eggman in order to rule the world. Eggman has to be there in order for them to take over the world, so he's out to find Eggman. And after Forces, he woke up to a destroyed city and decided to take the place of Eggman, and he's been the one commanding the Egg Army. And that makes a lot of sense, seeing how all of the Egg Army attacks were very strategized. They were very orderly. This seems like things that Metal Sonic could do, because Neo Metal Sonic observes. He perfects himself. He can actually learn. This makes a lot of sense why the Egg Pawns and the other Badniks would be so organized. With Metal Sonic's ability to learn, he could study strategies from other armies and then acquire that into his own robots. Metal Sonic is a threat that you don't want to mess with. So Metal Sonic is telling Sonic that he needs to tell him where Eggman is, and Sonic isn't going to do that. But Sonic knows that Metal Sonic is a foe that isn't just to be brushed off, so a fight scene instantly occurs. And unlike the fight scenes of the last comic, this fight scene is 10 times better. We instantly see Sonic turn into a blur. Then we see him instantly go into a ball and kick Metal Sonic in the face. And you can tell that he is hitting Metal Sonic. It is insane how many times he is doing this. And the speed is conveyed perfectly. This is what I want from a Sonic fight scene, not that weak shit with Shadow from the last issue. We then see Sonic gets a little cocky and he's taunting Metal Sonic, and Metal Sonic takes advantage of this. When Sonic isn't looking, he kicks him right in the gut or crotch. You guys can choose which one. Personally, in my own headcanon, I want to think he kicked him right in the crotch. But he hits Sonic, and you can see how much that hurt him. You see his quills spike up as he gets hit. You see the gust of wind at how fast Metal Sonic is moving. You can even see black lightning surrounding him, showing how powerful he really is. This is the best way to show off a character like that. It is the best way to show off how strong someone is. The fight scene continues with Neo Metal Sonic trying to ram himself into Sonic. That didn't work. So now he starts taking bits from his robots and chucking them at Sonic. He is disassembling the robots to use them as weapons against Sonic. And Sonic is moving so fast to dodge them that we see him in several places all at once. And the backgrounds have just become complete blurs because we can't even comprehend how fast they're moving. Sonic has 3 legs all at once because that's how fast he's kicking at him. This fight scene is so great. Sonic tries to lunge himself at Metal Sonic. Metal Sonic kicks him away. Such a great fight scene. I know I'm being repetitive, but there's no way I can say such a great fight scene more than one different way. And Sonic then realizes that there's no way to fight Metal Sonic, especially after Metal Sonic scanned his data, so he just decides to bail on this fight. Now that is a problem. That is a problem that I have to say, but I think I have a solution to it. Metal Sonic scans Sonic's biodata, but Metal Sonic was originally created with Sonic's biodata. I think the reason why he scans Sonic's data again is because Sonic has gotten faster over the years. Sonic has gotten stronger over the years. So in order to keep up with a modern Sonic, he would need to update his data. That seems like it's a logical step. So I really don't think that's a plot hole. I think that's just something that needed to be fixed. Metal Sonic calls him a coward, and then Sonic says, "Shows what you know," as he runs away. Metal Sonic gets onto the ship, stabs his arm into it, and glides down it. He slides down it, and Sonic is being bombarded the whole way down. And Metal Sonic commands his troops to go attack Sonic. I don't know why he isn't just attacking Sonic some more, but whatever. The cannons are firing, and Sonic is slowly getting all the cannons to attack each other and attack the army. Sonic is then confronted by a bunch of egg pawns all at once with their spears aimed right at him. Sonic then grabs their spears and ends up swinging them around in a circle, sending them flying into the cannons. But while Sonic was congratulating himself and laughing, Metal Sonic walks up behind him and pimp slaps him. And we can see the damage that Metal Sonic's slap did. We see Sonic just completely get caught off guard. And that's the main thing about this comic. Sonic isn't losing because Sonic sucks. Sonic is losing because he just isn't reacting fast enough to the threat at hand. It's not because Sonic is terrible that he's losing, it's because he's a little bit out of practice. Metal Sonic then begins to choke Sonic, and this is where we get the best reference. Metal Sonic said Sonic will tell him where Eggman is or he will fall. And then Sonic says, "I never fear the fall," making a direct reference to 06. You put a Sonic 06 reference in a Sonic comic. Fucking amazing. Sonic kicks Metal Sonic in the face and throws himself off of the plane, and Metal Sonic thinks he wins, but really, Sonic just hops onto the tornado, and Metal Sonic is shocked, and he's really adorable right there. His shocked expression is great. Metal Sonic then commands the cannons to fire, and he realizes that all the cannons are destroyed, meaning that Sonic has beat him. But instead of getting butthurt about it, instead of crying about it, instead of freaking out about it, he just says, "Well played," and he lets Sonic go, meaning that Metal Sonic still has the personality he was always known for, but his loyalty for Eggman is back, meaning that there's less of a chance of him betraying Eggman, but chances are he will betray Eggman anyway. We then see them at the headquarters talking about what they should do next, nothing really important. And I gotta say this, the base looks like it did at the ending of the Forces, which really doesn't make any sense seeing how they've slowly taken back the Earth. You think the base would look better, you think that there'd be more people in the base besides just the main people, but maybe they're all off doing something else. It would have been cool to see people like Blaze, Silver, and Tangle around, but I guess we'll have to wait for them. We then see that Metal Sonic is still following the trail, and this time, instead of trying to find Eggman, he decided to go for Angel Island, where the Master Emerald is. And this is following up on the plot hole that was in Forces where Knuckles was commanding the armies instead of protecting the Master Emerald. The Master Emerald is still on Angel Island, and Metal Sonic is gonna go get it. So that's where our to be continued is. So what did I think of this comic? It was really good. It had the right amount of exposition. It explained the Man in the Chair storyline. It explained why the Badniks were so organized. It explained the problems with Metal Sonic. It explained a lot of stuff that we really needed in this comic. And the action was great. The action in the last comic got me really disappointed, and a lot of the last comic got me really disappointed, but issue 7 really got me hyped for Sonic comics again, and I really hope that issue 8 is as great or even better than issue 7. Really loved it. The only thing I have to complain about is this cover, and I know it's such a minor thing, and you kind of succeed when the worst thing I have to say is your cover, which is only a variant, isn't that good. That's the only bad thing I have to say about this comic. First thing we notice is that I think her name is Evan Stanley. She's doing the artwork for this, and she always does great artwork. 10 out of 10 art, always wonderful. I love every bit of her art. She works on a fan comic that I've talked about before, Ghosts of the Future. If you haven't checked that out, go check that out. It looks amazing. And this comic is no different. We see on the cover that it shows a target being aimed at Silver and Sonic, and you think that this is going to be like a bad guy aiming at them, but in reality it's a good guy, and I'll explain who that is when we get to it. But it's a really good cover, and it really conveys what happens in the story. So we see the credits here, written by Ian Flynn, art by Evan Stanley. Yeah, I had that right. So yeah, I'm really hyped. Evan does great artwork, and this is the comic that will be introducing Whisper the Wolf. I hope she is introduced a lot better than the than her partner Tangle. Like, Tangle was the other new character, but it was like Tangle's introduction wasn't that great. So we see it previously, Sonic found out that the Eggman who was the man in the chair was actually Neo Metal Sonic. And now he got away from him, and he's going to go do another mission. He's storming into one of the Eggman bases, quote-unquote. It's not really an Eggman base anymore because Eggman isn't running the factories anymore. It's Metal Sonic, but whatever. Sonic says, "Come on, step it up," his classic catchphrase. And you can see Sonic just doing some badass stunts. He does flips, he disables lasers, he's attacking a lot of the little orb robots. I don't remember what their names are, but they spin around, they have fan blades, and they try to shock you. He just shreds right through them with a boost, which really shows off that, yes, boosting is a thing that happens in Sonic games. But Sonic was going to be closed in by a door, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, you see someone pull a trigger, and then a beam comes and helps him. So that's already a hint that something odd is happening here. Someone is watching him. Then Sonic sees a giant version of the shocking Badnik, which I really don't think is a big deal. But luckily, the person who you see in the third panel decides to help him by electrocuting that Badnik, holding him in place, and Sonic is able to destroy him. But it wasn't actually her. It was instead Silver. Silver used his telekinesis to hold the enemy still while Sonic killed them. And I really like Silver. He's done great here. He is being drawn by a person who does a fan comic about Silver, so I'm not shocked. But then we see right behind Sonic, and Sonic notices it too, that there is a gun being aimed at him. And this is when she actually does take her shot and kills the Badnik that was facing off against Sonic. And the Badnik just completely gets shredded as she snipes right through him. And Silver instantly knows who this is. Apparently it's someone he calls the Guardian Angel. And I really like how cute he is right there when he's talking about this Guardian Angel. I really, really love his artwork. He's really expressive, and I think that's really good for Silver. I like that he's positive. Silver explains that when a lot of the troops are having troubles during the war against Eggman and forces, this mysterious angel would show up and help them. But every time they tried to get her to join the resistance, she would deny it. She didn't want to join the resistance. And this really kind of shows that she's not the creative character like I wanted to think she is. Because if she was the creative character, then she definitely would have been in the army, because our creative character, ROC, was part of the forces. We see that she even saved Silver before by shooting through a Badnik, which I don't think Silver should need saving, but maybe he was just overwhelmed. Sonic is stretching, telling him about just being cocky like usual. And then we go on to the next page, and we see that Silver is telling Sonic that in his future, before it was completely destroyed because of Eggman, and now when he came back to his future, it's still destroyed, but all the people are gone, and the air is polluted. And I think that's a hint that Metal Sonic has now taken over the future, and that Metal Sonic taking over the future was not intended. because if it was intended, then Silver would have already lived in that future, and he already said that the future was messed up because of Eggman, and that wasn't intended. So yet again, there's more stuff going on with time, and his future keeps rapidly changing, meaning that this is a consistent timeline. If something happens in the past, it will happen in the future too. So that makes time travel pretty easy to explain to people. Sonic and Silver suddenly notice something, and they're both shocked. And Silver gets happy real fast when he sees that it's Whisper, and she is trying to shoot at a door. First she tries a beam, then she tries to shred it, then she tries exploding it, then she pulls out a hammer and smashes it. And I really like her attitude. I like that she's so resourceful, but when she gets annoyed, she just starts bashing it with a giant hammer. I think that's a great personality for her. It really shows what type of character she is. Silver and Sonic approach him, and Silver said that must be her. Hey, guardian angel. He just calls her Angel, and she instantly uses her hover wispon to float away. And Silver was trying to tell her that he was a big fan, but she's up there being really shy and really cute, just hiding away from everyone looking at them. And then Sonic calls upon the Wisp, and they all leave her capsules, and they all go visit Sonic. And when the Wisp trusts Sonic, that let Whisper know that she can trust Sonic. And she goes down there and introduces herself, saying that her name is Whisper. And Silver is naive, and he says, okay, but why? And he thought she was saying, we need to whisper, but Sonic clarifies it by saying, no, genius, that's her name. Her name is Whisper. So I really love Silver. He's a really happy-go-lucky, naive character, and I think it stays true to him 100%. Sonic and Silver are talking about getting that door down, and Silver uses his telekinesis to open the door again, and we see E-Series robot guarding it. And this E-Series robot is just placed in this room to kill anybody who enters. Now, some people might be upset that there's an E-Series robot, but as you can tell, there's a lot of references to both Heroes and the Adventure era video games in these comics. We see a lot of Heroes badniks, and now we see a robot you would normally see in the Sonic Adventure game. So we got Heroes, now we're getting Adventure. I really am not shocked by this. Whisper immediately starts firing at it, and it causes explosions from the other badniks. Sonic is ripping through the badniks, and he's moving so fast you can't even see his feet. He looks like he's a lightning bolt zapping through it. The door closes down because Silver loses track of his telekinesis. He didn't mean to, and he says, whoops. And they're both going to go fire at the E-Series robot. I don't remember that E-Series robot's name because I skipped the introductions. Whisper is floating by with her hover wispon. Then she starts charging up an electric attack with I think that's I forget what that wispon's name is. It's the lightning bolt wispon, but it's not really doing anything on this robot. This robot is giant, and there's tons of the little orbiting robots. Silver starts getting cocky, and he's saying, "Come at me!" And him and Sonic are gonna do a combo move. There's a lot of combo moves in these comics, but I think this one is special because it makes reference to the Sonic comic that Evan Stanley worked on. In Evan Stanley's Ghost of the Future comic, Sonic is a ghost, and one of the things he does as a ghost is he'll turn into a ball, and then he'll wrap around someone's arm, and then they can throw him at him, and this is called Sonic Control. And this is definitely a reference to Sonic Control. Silver wraps him around his hand just like he does when he's a ghost in the fan comic, and then launches him at all the enemies. Except for now, Silver is using his pyrokinesis on a living Sonic instead of Sonic using his ghost powers. I'm 100% sure that's a reference. But when the robot is malfunctioning, it ends up shooting and hitting Whisper, showing that Eggman's robots are so helpless they can only hit people when they're malfunctioning. And some robots are going to go finish her off when all of a sudden her Wisp come to protect her, showing that, yes, even if someone is damaged or hurt, your Wisp can still do stuff. They're not going to lay there and let you die. They will defend you. They do care about you. Silver immediately takes those robots and throws it back at the E-Series robot, who apparently isn't dead, even though he was malfunctioning a second ago. And then Sonic hops onto the missiles like he has done so many times in so many other cartoons. And we're getting some real classic Sonic action as he launches it back at the robot, and we see a little piggy fly out of it. So this is 100% E-Series robot. It is powered by animals. Silver saves her, and then he reaches her hand out to her, asking her if she would want him to join her team, and she says maybe. And this is an adorable moment. I definitely think that it's hint at a ship that could happen. I really feel like that this is like building up them as characters, so maybe they can get together. But I really like her. I really like her team of Wispins. I really love that the Wisp and the Wispin are so connected, to where even though her Wispin has multiple Wisp in it, they still all connect and they all still relate and they're all friends. I really like that we're seeing characters bond with their Wispin. They're not just an item. They're actual beings and they actually care about people. That's something I was curious about. If they would just be weapons or if they would actually be characters in of themselves. We then see that she sees an Eggman computer and her eyes open up. Normally her eyes are closed, but when she sees an Eggman computer, her eyes open up and she's ready to smash it. But Sonic tells her that we need the computer, and the whole point was to get there to the computer. And they were wondering, what's her deal with Eggman? What happened to her? What did Eggman do to her? And she just puts her mask over her face and she doesn't answer it. So that's something like a mystery box that we'll have to figure out later. It's setting up more questions that will be answered later on down the road. But that's not a big question. It's just something that adds to her backstory. So it's not too terrible of a question to keep hidden. But Silver says, oh crap, as they both notice something on the computer. And Knuckles is shocked, and then Sonic reaches out to Knuckles, telling him that Metal Sonic has taken the Master Emerald. And that leads us to Metal Sonic sitting on top of the Master Emerald, and he is planning to take over Angel Island. And then it says that the next issue is going to be Battle for Angel Island. So I am really excited about that. I really love this ending. I really love this whole comic, actually. I feel like unlike last time, the characters were introduced properly. The characters were actually given emotions, and I feel like that Silver didn't outshine Whisper, who is the character we are supposed to be getting attached to, because this is her issue, like it or not. I'm kind of upset that Whisper didn't get onto the cover of the comic of any of the variants I've seen so far. That is kind of a letdown, but I really feel like she got the shine in this comic, and I really love that at the end we get a reference to Metallics, with Metal Sonic sitting on top of the Master Emerald using it to power him. I'm really curious what Metal Sonic powering himself with the Master Emerald will be, if it'll be really OP. I'm really excited to see that. I'm wondering what this fight is going to be, and I'm excited for this. I really hope that we get a build on Metal Sonic's character in the next arc. But that was the ending of this arc. We've actually done it yet again. Another Sonic comic arc done. So overall, I would say that this comic was great. The artwork was consistently great all the way through. The story had a nice beginning, middle, and ending. Yeah, it was a lot of fighting, but it wasn't just fighting. It was fighting while conveying dialogue and building on a character that needed to be established. And I really feel like that these later issues are really understanding how to convey fight scenes to where they're more interesting. And unlike the issue that came out 2 issues before this one has got me excited about the comic. It's got me excited to see where things are going, and I hope that the comic can continue with this hype. Before the credits roll, I thought I'd give a shout out to my multiple ways of making money. YouTube is slowly starting to sanitize the platform, making it harder for people to make money on edgier content like I do. So I'm reminding you guys that I have a Patreon. The Patreon has plenty of reward tiers, including seeing my podcast early, being able to join my fan Discord, and possibly even getting on the show if I can fit that into the schedule. I have video recommendation tiers that you can try to get into, and if all else fails and my YouTube falls apart, I always have a BitChute account, so remember to check out all these different things in the description below.